So chapter 18, text 41. So Krishna is still continuing to talk about the modes of nature. Now he's going to describe the different Varnas and Ashramas, and he's going to describe their qualities. And even the Varnas and Ashramas, they are also, especially the Varnas, they are also tainted by the three modes of nature. So depending on what combination of modes you are in one of the particular Varnas. Varnas means classification of society according to the work and the qualities. So text 41. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, O chastiser of the enemy. So Brahmanas are, I will see what qualities Brahmanas are. You guys have to decipher what each of them have qualities, and we'll allow our newer guests to answer first. Samodamastapah socham shantirarjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So which mode the Brahmanas are in?
The Sattvic mode.
Sattvic mode, yes, the mode of goodness. The Brahmanas are primarily in the mode of goodness.
I was thinking that before we talk about this, I think we should, there was a verse that we did not discuss, which was Chaturvida Bhajan. No, Chaturvarnya Maya Shishtam.
That's in the chapter 4, though.
So we didn't talk about like this whole principle of what does it mean.
So we can discuss that now.
Yeah.
When Krishna is talking about the 4 Varnas and Ashramas.
Yeah.
Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. So somebody else, what mode are the Kshatriyas in?
Passion.
Maybe mode of passion.
Yeah, mode of passion. Who is that? Shweta?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Kshatriyas are primarily in mode of passion because all of these things they require mode of passion. Courage in battle, heroism, organizing, resourcefulness, leadership requires passion. But they are also in goodness. The Kshatriyas are actually in both goodness and passion because they have to make decisions. They have to be generous. In order to be generous, one has to be in goodness also. Leadership also requires a lot of goodness. Otherwise, you can't be a leader.
Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras, there are labor and service to others. So again, these are the different work, which is a combination of passion and.
Yeah, so the Vaishyas are in the mixed mode of. People can mute themselves. I think there's some background noise coming from somebody. Okay. So what modes the Vaishyas are in?
Introduce, this is my friend from New York, and so happy that you could join.
Hi, Rani, so good to see you.
Good to see you too, Lalita.
So we are right in the 18th chapter. You're just jumping into the deep end. We are finishing off the Bhagavad-Gita, but what I'll do is we'll finish 5 minutes early and I'll do a little kirtan for you. Okay. And so yeah, this is a very interesting, it's kind of interesting that you are in this topic because it's a very hot topic. And I was just looking up that Oprah actually just chose a book as in her book club as one of the books that she's actually sending out to CEOs and different people, and the name of the book is Caste.
Oh, really?
And this book is actually, this big book basically talks about the reason why there is racism is because, of this division, right, of society into the haves and the have-nots, and how that has led to so much exploitation. And so even this word, the caste system, this is exactly where, people get so much heat, the entire, spiritual tradition, it gets like put together in this one box, which is the caste system, and which has taken on such a negative, sort of like people have such a negative experience of this whole system, and rightfully so, because it has become a system of exploitation and of domination of one group over the other. And so just wanted to, this is the section we are discussing where Krishna is speaking about how there's a verse earlier where Krishna says that everybody is born with a certain nature, and in its truest form, in its purest form, this whole Varnashram system, or you could say the caste system, is simply based on the recognition of what one's natural qualities are. So each one of us, we are born with certain qualities. Some people are born writers or poets or philosophers or just scholars, teachers. And some people just have a natural inclination towards leadership and just sort of, taking on the role of, being a warrior or a soldier or a political leader. That's just their nature. And same thing, some people are just very enterprising, and you send them to any place and they'll find a way how to do some business and make money, right? And so like that, there are different kinds of people who have different qualities. And unfortunately, and I can attest to it, that right now, most of us are not engaged, or we don't get to work according to our nature. We work according to what is the best career choice in terms of job availability, or what is most practical. Just case in point, like our son Nimai, his most natural calling has always been, intellectual study and academic study. And yet when he explored the job market, he felt that would not be something that would be conducive for his, as a career choice. So he has, he's gone into a different direction, which he's also enjoying. But the point being that is a dilemma that most of us face, right, in today's times. So when the Bhagavad Gita speaks about the caste system, it's very different from.
It talks about varnas, actually. It never talks about caste.
It never talks about the caste. Yeah, it talks about varnas, which basically means identifying what are some of the qualities that each one of us have, and how we can use that quality as an expression of our spiritual being, our spiritual essence, and in that way experience the greatest amount of satisfaction. Because when what we love doing best, when we can use that as a way to serve others, then that becomes actually a way for us to develop a very deep sense of satisfaction. Sort of becomes like our calling almost. So that's what Krishna has been speaking about. So I just wanted to clarify that. That's when caste system is being talked about, that's what it means. And now Krishna is describing what, and so here is the other thing, that it's not just enough to say that, well, I am a professor, or I am a brahmana, or I am a warrior or a leader. And we're seeing that in the world right now, that we have so many leaders without the leadership qualities. And we see how that creates a havoc in society when leaders are not exhibiting true leadership. So Krishna is delineating that it's not just it's not by birth. So that's one big misconception that people have, that just because I am born as the son of a brahmana or the son of a great political leader or whatever, then I automatically become one.
I guess when the whole society is divided based on birth rather than guna and karma, which means qualities and nature of work. So by birth, it becomes caste system. By guna and karma, it is varnas, which is a natural division.
Exactly. So guna means qualities. So, and that is actually one of the most beautiful things, is that if, say, someone who wants to be in the field of, governing, governing the country, if they have that required training where they're not just good at their job, but they also bring the necessary qualities that can make them effective leaders or inspired leaders, or leaders with a spiritual awareness that can uplift, the consciousness of everyone, then that would be so powerful. Instead, what we are encountering are people who are obviously not trained, and as a result, it's very demoralizing for the general mass of people to see that their leaders are telling lies, or they're not upholding integrity or morality. Same thing with brahmanas or teachers. When teachers actually can walk their talk, and they can be good examples of sense control and forgiveness, purity, then that becomes a different kind of teaching. It's not just a transmission of information from on a mental level, but rather a transmission of inspiration, which it's more holistic. So that's why Krishna is speaking about all these different qualities. So Just, oh gosh, it's gonna, what is that? Just give us a minute, I think. So, Indrani, do you have any thoughts or should we just proceed because you just joined? So I'm just trying to bring you up to speed. You're muted.
Well, let me first get the hang of it, like what you're talking about and all that, and then I can,
Okay.
ask.
All right. Okay.
Thanks.
So Krishna, let's just read those verses again so she can understand. These are the qualities of the Brahmana: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work.
Second is heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. So we're talking also about the three modes of material nature, which actually is, are the three forces that operate in this world, and as a result of which we behave the way we behave. So sometimes we don't know like why we have certain thought patterns, or why do we respond in a certain way, and why certain things affect us more and maybe affects someone else less, and why we have the kind of attachments we have. And so Krishna, just prior to this, has just talked about these three modes: the mode of passion, the mode of goodness, and the mode of ignorance, and how everything is based around these three modes, and based on this combination there are these different kinds of people. Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras, there are labor and service to others. So, any kind of employment work where we are working for someone else, that is actually called a Shudra. And see, again, these words are so loaded in India, especially, these words have, such a strong social connotation, which is very unfortunate, because really it just means someone who's engaged in working under someone, that's all. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. So this is actually another really significant point. It doesn't matter, what kind of work what one is doing. If one does that and follows one's nature, then every man can become perfect. So it's not that just the Brahmana can become perfect, but any man engaged in any work.
I guess that was the whole purpose of Varnasharama, is to engage people according to their natural abilities and natural interests, so they would be satisfied in their work, and then they would be inspired to actually offer their work or engage their work for a higher purpose.
By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So this was actually the ultimate purpose of all our work. So whatever work we do, there are fruits that come from it. Actually, just before this, that was one of the reasons we got delayed in joining. We were talking to our son Nimai, who's going for a major interview tomorrow. And we were talking to him about the same principle that, if we can do our work and do it as a form of offering and not be attached to the results, then that can take away, our anxiety and our excessive attachment to how our life needs to be or how things have to turn out, becomes a great impediment in our being able to perform our work in a happy spirit, right? So that mood of detachment, and we talked about that in one of our discussions, that how when, there has been studies that show that one can actually enter into this flow zone when one is not attached to the work, but rather is just doing it as an expression of our love and devotion.
It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions.
Into the next one also. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. So these two verses are so powerful.
So people who are butchers and stuff, who are doing based on the, I mean, for them, is that also considered to be, but
So
that's not considered, that's harmful work.
Right, let's get to that. We'll address that. But the point here Krishna is saying here is that that we're all born with a certain nature, right? And so based on our nature, we are going to engage in some occupation. Now, even if we are engaged in our occupation, and even if there are some imperfections, and Prabhupada actually is addressing that in this purport, he's saying that, if somebody thinks that I can change my work and then that way there won't be any reaction, then that's not true.
That's what Arjuna was thinking of doing, his nature is a Kshatriya, and he was thinking of giving up his nature or his duty as a Kshatriya and becoming a Brahmana, going to the forest and becoming a Brahmana, thinking that this way he will avoid the sinful reactions. But Krishna is saying that that's not going to work, because you'll be giving up your duty abruptly without proper consideration, and that's going to produce more sinful reactions.
So it's better, you know. So sometimes people have this feeling, right? Just like what you described, that maybe if I give up this work and I do something else, then maybe I will have, you know, a better life, or maybe I won't be engaging in so much violence. And while that may be true,
Or I may acquire a higher position in the society by becoming a Brahmana or a Kshatriya.
right, but actually, you know, whatever position that we are in, whatever our particular guna qualities are, and if we work according to those qualities, then gradually we will come to that perfected state, no matter wherever we are. So this actually takes away, you know, like people, like in this, you know, this Oprah Winfrey's, this book, I was looking up at the synopsis. It basically says that, you know, these divisions have created so much hierarchy, and people have used that hierarchy to exploit, you know, the lesser section. But actually there is no less or more, you know, it's just different functionality. Just like for a body to function, you need, you know, different parts of the body. You need your hands, you need your legs, you need your head, and no one can argue that one is better than the other. You know, you need everything. And so when a society has all of these different you know, segments that are performing their work in synergy with each other, with respect, with not the purpose of exploitation, but for the purpose of satisfying the Supreme Person, then that work actually elevates everyone.
Just like the body is not permanent, right? If the hands thinks that I'm going to be the hand forever, or the head thinks I'm going to be the head forever, then that's an illusion, because ultimately the whole body is going to go away. And similarly, all these different varnas, whether you're a Kshatriya or a Brahmana or Vaishya or Shudra, it doesn't really matter. It's only for a short period of time. So we have to see what Krishna is saying, that see the higher purpose of wherever you are. Is basically making the best use of a bad bargain.
Yeah, because Krishna also speaks earlier in the Bhagavad-Gita, if you remember, that, you know, you cannot really repress your nature. So this is the conundrum that we all find ourselves in, that we are who we are, you know, and just by saying that I should not be like this doesn't change who I am. So what am I supposed to do? So that's why Krishna is saying that work with what you have, you know. So if this is the kind of work that I'm attracted to, then do it, but then do it with that understanding, you know. Like Prabhupada would even say that, you know, if someone is very attached to drinking, say, alcohol, then if that person simply thinks that the taste of alcohol is Krishna, then the person will make progress. So just adding that change of consciousness and doing that work as an offering will immediately start the process of purifying the person.
And the other thing that is
I
mentioned is that
just
how.
want to ask,
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to ask that you said if somebody really feels towards a work and then wants to devote it without expectations to God, what if a Shudra, somebody who's born in the Shudra, if he feels like he wants to study the scriptures and do the work of a Brahmana, would that be okay? Because it's not by birth, it's by action. So why is it that these group of people should do only that work well? Why can't they just like go to do another kind of work that they comes from inside and they want to dedicate that to the, you know, God? But
Absolutely. And they can. There is absolutely.
There's so many examples
There's
of that.
so many examples, you know, where a person, doesn't matter if that person has an inclination for studying the scriptures and studying Sanskrit, that means that is their nature. That means that they're, you know, because this thing is not told by anyone on the outside. It's not that someone is telling you or telling this person that this is who you are. Just like, you know, we all made a decision that I want to study medicine or I want to do something. It's something that calls to us. So if a person is interested in studying and become, that means that person, even though he's born of Shudra parents, you know, or Kshatriya parents, that means the real calling is that he's interested in study, and he should be. And that is
now, right? That's in the modern world. But when it was first there as Krishna.
No. Traditionally, this is how it was. And then the whole system got corrupted. And that is the corrupted system that
it was based on work division initially, but then after that, was it okay for, like, you know, to what does the Bhagavad Gita say? I mean, you know, in terms of.
So traditionally, according to the system,
can the Brahmin come and do a Shudra work?
Yeah. If that means that person is not a Brahmana. So just because someone is born in the family of a Brahmana, say my parents are Brahmanas, that doesn't mean that I'm a Brahmana. If my interest is in working as a Shudra, then I'm a Shudra. Or if my interest is in working as a Kshatriya, then I'm a Kshatriya. So that is
And
the
it says-
original.
Okay, it says that in the scriptures.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I mean, there's so many examples like that. We all know Bharat, after King Bharat, after whom India was named as Bharat. So his father was Rishabdev, and Rishabdev had 100 sons. And out of those 100 sons, 10 or 12 of them, they became Brahmanas. And majority of them, they became Kshatriyas. And there's so many other examples where even a Shudra, they became like spiritual masters. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Kiva Vipra, Kiva Nyasi, Shudra Kena Naya, Jai Krishna Tattva Beta Say Guru Hoya. That whether you are a Vipra, which means a Vaishya, or whether you're a sannyasi or whether you're a Shudra, it doesn't really matter who you are. If you know the knowledge of Krishna Tattva, then you're fit to be a guru. And we see that how Ramanujacharya, who was such a prominent guru of Sri Sampradaya, he accepted a guru from a Shudra family. But of course, the person was not a Shudra. He was a great devotee. So he accepted him publicly as his guru. Nobody would accept him. But just to prove this point that this is not about your birth, it is about your quality. So Ramanujacharya publicly accepted that person as his guru.
Just like when we go to a doctor, right? We don't find out, where, what is the birth of that doctor. We want to see the qualification of the doctor. If the doctor has proper qualification, he's equipped to perform the surgery. So the scriptures abound, and this is where the scriptures have been exploited and misinterpreted just for exploitation purposes. And that's why I remember my father, when he first heard this, he said, how come nobody talks about this stuff? Because there's so much exploitation in the name of this one principle. But actually it is so loud and clear that, it is based on your qualification. It is not based on your birth. So that's why there is no meaning to calling a whole group of people as belonging to this particular group or untouchables or this caste or that caste. It means nothing. Just like my father may be a doctor, but if I myself haven't gone to medical school, then, just because I'm the child of a doctor doesn't make me a doctor automatically, right? So like that.
I have one example, Mataji. Vishwamitra was born was Kshatriya, but he gave us the Gayatri mantra. So that's another example. Like, even though he was born as Kshatriya, the Gayatri mantra is accepted, was given by him. Like,
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Vishwamitra became a Brahmana through austerity and developing. So that's another question, that if you are, can you change? I mean, of course you can change. If you are born with a certain nature, then you can evolve. If you want to become a Brahmana, then you have to develop those qualities of a Brahmana, of tolerance and truthfulness and patience and forgiveness and all those qualities. Once you develop those qualities, then yes,
Anyone can become. Yeah. And that is actually the basis of Lord Chaitanya's entire process, is that what to speak of within India, but even outside of India, anyone can actually now take up this process and become, Vaishnavas or Brahmanas, greater than Brahmanas, right? So this is actually,
So Shankar Dev was the same in Assam. So, it's like Chaitanya Dev and Shankar Dev, they have the same progressive philosophy of.
Exactly. It's very, very progressive. In fact, in our sampradaya, in our tradition, I was just hearing about how Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they had, Muslim names, right? And the greatest teacher that we have, who's called the teacher of chanting, is actually, he came from a Mohammedan background, Haridas Thakur. So like that, these things are very superficial to the real identity of the self and has no bearing on who we truly are. And yet people, because of limited knowledge, we tend to fight over these external, right, designations. So we'll continue.
Thanks.
One who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyments can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction.
I guess that's what Krishna is saying, that regardless of which varna you are in, if you are self-controlled and if you are unattached to the results of your work and you are detached from the material enjoyments, then by practice of this, and that is the end goal of all the varnas and ashramas, is to reach that stage of renunciation. Then you can become freedom, you can become free from reaction and achieve the highest stage.
O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to the supreme perfectional stage Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize. So how we can attain this highest stage of perfection? Being purified of his intelligence, by his intelligence, and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance, and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization.
So I guess everybody has to go through this. Nobody has like a
rubber stamping.
Rubber stamping of that I am self-realized. One has to overcome these obstacles and gain these qualities to be called a self-realized person.
So maybe we can pause here and take a, think a little bit more about all these different qualities that Krishna is talking about here. That being freed, purified by the intelligence, giving up the objects of sense gratification, right? And this is most important, being freed from attachment and hatred. Both things. We struggle. These are like two sides of the same coin, attachment and then hatred. And so what does that mean? That means that one has to rise above these dualities of the modes of nature, which is characterized by excessive attachment and also excessive hatred. I like this, I don't like this. This is good, this is not good. So this good and bad these are perceptions of the mind.
I like people who are like myself, and I don't like people who are not like me.
Yeah, I like people of this gender, I don't like people of this other gender. There's just so many ways that we have this raga and dvesha, this attachment and hatred. So rising above that and living in a secluded place means like living with people who are also spiritual minded, because that immediately changes our consciousness from material to spiritual.
And it also means that you create your own sacred space wherever you are.
And controlling, so these are the greatest. So sometimes we wonder, what is the cause of my suffering, right? And so it is because the mind, and this is something we've talked about in great length, how the mind is the cause of our greatest suffering. And Krishna says that the mind can be our best friend or it can be our worst enemy. So how to convert this mind into something that supports us rather than pulls us down or makes us fills us, right, with bewilders us essentially. So this is how we can do that, is by transforming. So controlling basically means transforming, because essentially we cannot control the mind, but we can control what we can transform, the quality of the mind, right? Okay. Oh, this is a very nice verse. Important verse actually, and so let's read this.
Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param.
One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me.
Brahma bhuta. Brahma bhuta means to be situated in Brahman. When the soul is covered by this body, we are called Jiva bhuta, which means we are like struggling in this material body. But Brahma bhuta means one who has transcended this conception of bodyhood, and as a result, they are able to treat everybody equally. They are able to see everybody as a spiritual being rather than a body.
And it comes with actually seeing oneself as a spiritual being. That is the beginning of any kind of spiritual consciousness, is to be able to distinguish between oneself as a body and the spiritual essence or the consciousness, which is pure spirit, right? And so what is the quality of such a person? How do we know that a person is actually situated on a spiritual platform? Because he will be freed from these two qualities, which are those two qualities? Lamentation and hankering. Lamentation is also always connected to our past. Oh, I lost this, and I used to be young, and I used to be like this, and my life was in this way. And
this person said this to me, or he mistreated me.
Yeah, there's just so much trauma and so many things that we carry within us that creates lamentation within our heart. And then what is the second thing? The hankering, right? Hankering is always connected to the future, right? That, oh, I wish that tomorrow, is going to bring me, this happiness, or I hope that this bad thing doesn't happen in my life. So, that creates, fear, and it creates lamentation or grief within the heart. And so a person who is actually on a spiritual platform can rise above this duality of fear and lamentation, grief and lamentation, and become situated in his or her original spiritual essence, which is called the Brahma Bhuta platform. And that platform is characterized by this this boundless sense of happiness, where one is no longer affected by the material energy. So we talked about the three modes. Now the three modes no longer can affect us because one has risen above it. So we'll pause here because we've been speaking for a while, and we'll take your reflections. So I guess Dominic, let's see. So does it mean it's okay for our career not to align with our passion and it be purely practical? I mean, obviously not. I mean, in the ideal situation, you want your nature to align with the career, but that's this age is actually quite topsy-turvy, right?
In earlier times, when the Varnashram was implemented perfectly, it was the responsibility of the king, who was a saintly king, to make sure that everybody was employed according to their natural qualities and the inclinations, and they could gain gainful employment according to their nature. But nowadays that's not possible. So you have to make do what you can do,
as closely as we can align ourselves, right? Because ideally speaking, a brahmana is not supposed to charge any money for imparting education. And that is the reason why a brahmana can speak the truth. And right now, when we see the academia is actually so closely connected to, for their funding from all these big corporations. So when they engage in any research, they're under the pressure, right? So, in fact, it's described that Chandragupta Maurya had a brahmana, Chanakya, and Chanakya said, I'm not going to live within your kingdom, the boundaries of your kingdom, because if I do, and if I'm maintained by you, then I can't speak the truth.
Like Bhishma, who was such a great warrior, he had to side with the Kauravas for two reasons. One, he took the oath that he will always protect the kingdom of the Kauravas, and the other was that he was maintained by them. So he had to, although he knew that it was completely wrong, but he still had to fight for them.
So we don't have those examples anymore, right? I mean, and that's one of the reasons why we lose faith, when studies come, we're not sure, right? So I think Delia has a point. I think the difficulty aligning to our nature comes from an economic system based around exploiting people. Exactly. And Dominic says, very true. What do you do if you can't find? So we'll talk about that in a minute. What do you do when you can't find what you're passionate about or you're not sure? Yeah.
You can't find what you're passionate about.
I think one of the things that we have seen is that by the practice, at least I can speak for myself, that by the practice of spiritual life, and specifically by the process of this chanting of this Maha Mantra, what happens is that we start uncovering, aspects of us that we never knew that we have within us. And as we become more and more in contact with our nature, then we become more aware that, yeah, this is something I would like to do. And then we can also align our work with a higher purpose of service, and becoming an instrument. So in that way, it becomes deeply satisfying.
Even if we cannot find what we are passionate about or what we really like to do, that can happen sometimes. Or during a particular phase of our life, we may go through that phase where we are not sure. But I guess what Krishna is saying, that if you align that, whatever you're doing with a higher purpose, as you're saying, with service and a higher purpose, then you will find you're basically connecting to a higher realm, and then you'll find that satisfaction and an advancement from that, even that.
So you don't have to type. Maybe feel free to speak. I think that way we can discuss. We can also hear from you.
Okay, I was just saying that possibly you can take an aptitude test to get to know that what passion you have for the works. There are many. I think almost every country has got. In India also, you have started this aptitude test at very early for this students, so that they can be counseled that what is their which stream they should study, or which way they should be going.
Very nice.
So
Thank
that
you.
is they're actually going back to their same Varnasharama, whether if they know that which way they should be going, they can decide on which profession they should go about.
Very
So
nice.
this,
Yeah, but that has no spiritual backing. It is purely based on economics.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, the point is that one has to look at all different things and then just, just really pray to Krishna, and then we'll find that guidance. And it doesn't matter, whatever we do, we can connect that work to a higher purpose. We just has to find
Right.
something which is practical and one can do, yeah. I think Ashley and Daryl, you had something you wanted to say? Or maybe I missed it. I thought I saw.
Yep. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ashley.
Yep. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I had a oh yeah. So I had a question. So I was wondering, is one still considered a brahmana as they are undergoing their transition? So basically, like they're obtaining each quality, or is it only once they have overcome completely? And I wonder this because it seems as though like the path to brahmana is a lifelong path. So it's like, many of these qualities, although they may be achieved physically, like for instance, we may be able to chant physically, we may be able to be self-controlled physically, but could still be undergoing the temptations inwardly, although we're not responding in our actions. So are you still considered a brahmana once you have completely overcome your reaction to these things physically, although you may still be inwardly battling these things off
What a great
inwardly?
question. It's a really, really good question. Did everybody get the question? So you want to?
Yeah.
So I was just thinking that, you're right, that, in the beginning, when we first start the process, then one is simply an intern, right? So as long as we are working and we are working under the guidance of a realized brahmana, and even though we ourselves may not be perfect, we are in the practice and in the training. And as long as we are doing that, then yes, we could say that we are brahmanas in practice.
Brahmanas in practice.
Yeah. And that's a good place for us to be in. And then if we continue, just like with any kind of field, one has to go through the internship process and train under a proper teacher, and then gradually one will actually acquire those qualities. It takes time, as you're rightly pointing out, but if one tries sincerely, then gradually one will start finding that one is exhibiting these qualities. So in the beginning, one can simply say that, yeah, I am a brahmana in practice.
And it may not happen in one lifetime. It may take maybe even many lifetimes to get to that stage.
Yeah. And it's actually a good thing to do, because then that way we stay humble and we stay grounded. Otherwise, we get a little bit of knowledge and then we think, now I am, I am this perfect. Yeah, I'm a pandit and I'm a perfected being. And now it's my right to exploit others and show them how fallen they are, or, So it's a good way to look at ourselves and say, well, I'm still trying, I'm still a student.
I have one doubt.
Yeah.
This is regarding the self-realization that we just discussed. Here, there are three qualities. As before that, the false word is used. That's false strength, false pride, and false ego. It means that for others, I think he should at least give up this lust, anger, etc. Now, we have been talking about these three terms again and again here. So if you can just tell us what is the difference between the false ego, false strength, and false pride against that normal pride, strength, and ego. It means he can still have the ego, pride, and strength Of course, strength anybody should have. So how do you define this to false pride and normal pride, and false ego and normal ego?
Very, very good question. False strength is the strength just based on our own mental or physical capacity, right? That the strength just coming from our body or mind. That is, everybody has that strength, but that strength is very limited, and that is very fickle, because it can, today it is there and tomorrow it can go away. But the real strength is based on our spiritual strength, and that's what is being talked about. The real strength is our spiritual strength, and false strength is just depending on our body and our mind. False pride is basically pride on something that we are not. That is what false pride is. Real pride is in our connection with the Supreme, just like a little boy who's holding the hand of his father, and then even a dog, whatever, comes and challenges that applies to actually real strength. But pride is, I'm proud of like borrowed plumes. That is false pride. But when we are proud of our connection to the Supreme, and in that humility, we exhibit the real pride. And the real pride is actually very attractive.
The real pride is seeing oneself as an instrument, right? As a servant, that I'm meant for service. And that is my identity. And that is where I get my strength from. So that's a good thing that you looked at. So I don't know if there are any final, and I could do a little kirtan, because I told Indrani that I would, sing for you. So do you have any further thoughts, Indrani, before we wind up? You're muted. You're muted still.
Yes, I know I'm very new to this thing. So actually, I only joined today for this particular. I've not been on Zoom before. So no, I want to, I would love to attend more and, sort of get into the groove. But I'm waiting for you to give a good time.
No, thank you, Indrani. I just wanted to express.
Wonderful hearing you guys talk, because this is a bit similar to what some have in Shankar Dev, who basically followed Chaitanya Dev. And it's like more like a cleaning up of the Brahminical Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma.
Right.
So this is like a more like a purer form. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because we don't grow up reading these books. We don't grow up understanding much of these. So yeah, it's
absolutely
nice. And I'd love to be a part again.
So I'll just do a little kirtan.
I was like eat, drink, and sleep Krishna. And that's why I passed on to her. Yeah.
And I have to give you another secret. When she was young, on Janmashtami Day, can I share? Is it okay? Krishna would actually come and say, come for my party, and he would take her. She would have dreams like.
You remember that?
You told me.
You remember that? Wow.
I remember.
Oh.
I remember. Can you tell that?
Yeah, 1 second.
Krishna.
Okay, let me give you the mic.
Beautiful.
Hare Rama,
Sister, thank you.
That is nice to hear after a long time.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Vanita. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So nice that you could join, and
It's so beautiful.
thank you. So yeah, we'll continue this tomorrow.
No, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh, maybe this week let's just do it all 5 days, and then next week we'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we'll meet tomorrow.
Okay.